Stage 7, it's the final stage and the final opportunity for glory on the Larry H. Miller Tour of Utah for 2017. We've had the Queen stage yesterday. Has it finally established general classification? I'll tell you what we've got today is we're in the capital of Utah, Salt Lake City, in front of the state capital. 118 kilometers in total and 10 tough laps of racing. 11 laps indeed of a 10-kilometer circuit that will take the riders to what is anticipated to be a group sprint, but how many riders are going to be involved? Here's what we've got for the riders today. Rob Britton defending the jersey on a final day circuit race. Takes us around the capital, and that little stretch up at the top of the diagram there is a climb, and from the moment they make that right turn at the bottom of the circuit, it is stretching upwards. That profile, while it's not King of the Mountain stuff, there are no classified climbs, but it is a tough and grippy ascent for the riders. We've got 2 intermediate sprints along the way, offering points and a few seconds for any riders still chasing a bit of an opportunity on general classification, of which there are many, I can tell you. We've had lots of incidents already. The riders already out and racing, and it's been hectic. There's a group up front, and the battle to get into the break has been hectic, to say the least. That's Rui Oliveira of the Axion Hagens Berman squad, the Portuguese rider who's dusted himself off and got back into the action, and that's just one of several crashes that has already afflicted this race. There's a big crowd out and very much enjoying the fare that's being presented to them. And here we have the leading group, and no, it's not the peloton. It is the breakaway group. 18 riders have managed to knit themselves together in what is a very, very strong and committed, organised group that is hanging on to a pretty healthy advantage. It's raced up north of a minute. But now it's pared down to just on half a minute. So there's a committed chase behind, and the riders in here, while it's like a criterium amongst 18 riders, they're not exactly racing totally focused on keeping it together themselves. They're starting to attack, and that's because this gap is shrinking. They've been through the first intermediate sprint of the day. None of the riders in here are in contention for the sprint's jersey. None of the riders indeed are really a threat on overall general classification. The best placed of them is 4 minutes and 39 seconds back from the overall lead. But I tell you what, it has certainly put the cat among the pigeons, because so many teams represented in here. Behind, we've got the overall yellow jersey of Rob Britton is safely in there with the rally cycling team on the front. Angus Morton crouched low over the bars. His brother was the overall winner of this race 12 months ago. The BMC squad want to try and get involved in something as well, just clipping off the front of the bunch. They've got a couple of riders up in the breakaway group today. Just the final stage, as I say. Alongside me to run the rule over the riders is Tony Gibb. And Tony, you've already seen the action that's unfolded already today, and this is your kind of bike race. I think it's pretty hammer down right from the get-go.
Yeah, it would be if it was a little bit flatter. Good evening, Declan. Good evening, everybody at home. Thank you for joining us. This is American racing, as you can see, wide open roads and a circuit race, but it is punctuated by that very nasty climb. And if you look at the profile, we've got a couple of different versions of the profile here. One of the profiles looks like it's a really big climb and just a massive descent, and one of the other profiles shows it as slightly easier than that, but it is hard. And it's pretty much either up or down for this circuit, and 10 kilometers around each time. And the climb, as Declan said when we looked at the profile, kicks up around the top of the town and then starts descending back in. And you can see just how wide these roads are, and they've been great roads all week, haven't they? But when you do get into the towns, 4, 5, 6 lane roads like this, the riders have got lots of space to move around, and you can see how spread out that chase group is on the road.
Yeah, look at the peloton behind as well, as we've got a new team up to the front. Make a contribution is it the Hollow West Coast Citadel team. No surprise if they want to get this one back, because Oscar Clark is their only representative in the group up front, and they have already scored 2 stage victories this week. Ty Magner could be a man to do a job for them today, but all eyes on John Murphy, who was in an early move, but it didn't stick, and John Murphy missing out on an opportunity to score some points towards the sprints competition. Just to update you on the situation, great stage victory yesterday for Giulio Ciccone of the Bardiani squad from Italy, and Ciccone soloing clear of his teammate. Great 1-2 finish for the Italian. Sterbini finishing in second and safely across the line, 5th on yesterday's Queen stage. The summit finish to Snowbird Resort was Rob Britton, the overall race leader. So we're just getting a sight of Gus Morton, almost waiting to see who's going to come across to him. The gradient just starts to winch up here.
Yeah, so was just looking back there as they took the right-hand turn in town, and then they start climbing, and you can see with a kilometre to go how steep the bottom of this climb is, and the bunch there in the background doesn't quite look like 30 seconds to me, but it does get foreshortened by the camera as Morton is just a couple of metres off the front of that chase group. But you can see just how hard this climb's going to be when the riders have got another, what, 40 odd miles in their legs.
So Jelly Belly powered by Maxis. I've got Gus Morton, brother of Lachlan Morton, who won this race last year. Has gone on to glory from that. And they've got Sergei Vetsov sitting in a very handy 3rd place overall. It's 32 seconds back from the overall race leader.
Wouldn't surprise me, Declan, if this was all back together by the time we get to the top of this climb. Doesn't finish until long after the finish, and we haven't got there yet. Still got probably about 400 metres to go to the finish. You can see the bunch in the background, and the impetus really has gone out of this breakaway now.
Well, plenty of hooping and hollering around Salt Lake City in the capital of Utah as the riders are welcomed. This is the 10th year that it's been a host city of the Tour of Utah. It's hosted a circuit race in 5 other years, but this is a new configuration this year, and so far it's proving very popular with pretty much everyone involved in the event. There's a few riders in there probably don't find it that popular. Just levels off a bit as they go run close to the finish line, and it ramps up once more as the riders behind in the group. And BMC have put 2 riders into this group out front, Joey Roscoff and Manuel Seni. Seni in great action yesterday, and one of the animators, the chief animators in the closing stages of yesterday's summit finish. Joey Roscoff also trying to get involved. Had a great start to the week, but he slipped away a little bit for Roscoff. He'd like to make amends for that. The BMC team, well, they managed to retain 5th place overall yesterday, but they laid all their cards out on the table in the early stages, and Brent Bookwalter, and he attacked off the summit of the first of 2 climbs of the day. Managed to meet up with a couple of teammates up the road and got some assistance. But from Taylor Eisenhart from the Holowesco Citadel and a couple of teammates of his. But Chris Ciccone, by the way, that pink jersey, was the most aggressive rider from yesterday. He didn't just win the stage, but he's got that jersey and he's easy to pick out in the bunch. And Ciccone, I think, will fancy this one as well. It's a little rise to the line, brings it back from the sprinters and a little bit more towards the riders who can climb. So I think more riders than normal are going to be able to get involved at the finish. How big is the group going to be that sprints it out, or will it be a solo player? Going to get the first break out of the way of the day. The action continues here in Salt Lake City. We've 24 leaders up front and clear of the peloton as we wind our way around this circuit of 10 kilometers, 11 laps in total. We're on lap 5, and the BMC team have added a rider in there with the Swiss national champion Sylvain Dillier has joined up. 6 riders having made the junction. They come across and receive refreshment. And it's been a brief cessation in hostilities in the breakaway group because that's allowed William Barta to get back on from the Axion Hagens Berman squad. Let's run through some of the names. We've seen Gus Morton already from Jelly Belly, powered by Maxis. Joey Roscoff and Manuel Seni are there for the BMC squad, as indeed is Sylvain Dillier. United Healthcare want to get something organised there. Flicking the elbow. There you go, there's all the names. You can get that, take all that in, take a screenshot. Dan Yaramillo is there for United Healthcare, and they've got 1 or 2 others in there as well. Lorenzo Rota and Simone Sterbini, one of the heroes from yesterday's stage. Sterbini finishing 2nd, there for Bardiani CSF. Damiano Cimo from the Nippo Vinifantini squad. Bernardinetti from the Amore Vita. We just saw him on the front with the black and blue sleeves, just rolling back. Hangar 15, they're represented. It's the local team. Just see them rolling off the front there as Morton makes his appearance for the Jelly Belly squad, and the local Hangar 15 bicycles team, Jad Bayer, Francisco Manchebo, a colourful figure in the history of cycling, is there for the Hangar 15 squad. Eric Slack as well has made it into the break. Here comes Dillier through to the fore. There's Joey Roscoff with the dark sunglasses, just communicating with Dillier. The Dayglow sunglasses, Manuel Senni, he's changed them from yesterday, so he's got new glasses. Well, that's a reward, I think, for his racing, his big efforts that he made. Perhaps the sunglasses manufacturers can have given him a new pair.
Well, rally cycling, sorry Declan, rally cycling on the front here, really putting the chase in. They're not closing the gap down, you know, very quickly. They're confident that they can do it later on. 38.2 miles left to go, and just shows that that break has come back from well over a minute to 25 seconds now, and it is being controlled by Rally Pro Cycling.
So Joey Roscoff is continuing to set the tempo on the front. Caja, we believe it's Molina, who's well placed, just 4:39 down, who's made it into this group. Gus Morton just rolls off the front. He's the only Jelly Belly rider in there, and given the size of the group, you really would still feel vulnerable if you were the only member of your team in there. They really could do with more riders.
Yeah, very much so. A couple of teams with 2 riders and one with 3. So if you're up there on your own, that's a big group to be up against, especially given the terrain, you know, on that climb. It's going to be every man for himself, isn't it? And you do really need to hedge your bets. Look like one rider just sneaking off the front there.
Yeah, everyone wants to go and play, because that group has swelled to 25 of late, and this is Diaz from the Silent Cycling, who haven't been too well, they've been fairly active but haven't managed to come up with any big results so far this week. The local team have Kyle Murphy up there, and if Diaz was to race across and join them, that'd be good news, but he's got to find enough breakfast and enough gumption to get across a gap of 1 minute and 5 seconds. One rider I did pick out just at the back of the group, and I think he's raced across, it was Travis McCabe in the white jersey of leader of the sprints competition, and Travis McCabe has a 9-point advantage over Marco Canola of Nippo Vini Fantini. McCabe already a stage winner this week, and many people's favourite for honours in this stage, because he gets over the hills better than most of the sprinters, and that sprint finish up that ramp, that finishing ramp, could well play to his advantages, but he's gone into this breakaway group. We'll get another look, as I do believe that I picked him out, the United Healthcare rider, but with that less familiar white jersey of the leader of the sprints competition is in there. He's chasing the sprint points on offer on lap 7, just to rubber stamp his situation on the front of that classification.
He's definitely in there, because when we went through the feed zone, he for some reason got 3 bottles going through the feed zone. I just noted it, so he's definitely up in this front group. So
he's very thirsty, or he's his own domestique?
Well, I think either he's you know, either there was something different in one of the bottles that he wanted, or he was just making sure one of his teammates that's also in the break got a bottle as well. So just pushing on. It's interesting, isn't it, the Tour of Utah? The weather's absolutely lovely, because the altitude, it's not, you know, stinking hot. It's just nice weather for bike racing. The one of the factors that does play in this race is the altitude, and up, you know, 2,000, sometimes 3,000 meters, and if you're not used to that, it certainly does impact on your ability to perform.
Yeah, a lot of riders, of course, have come to Utah ahead of time to acclimatise to the altitude, and those that haven't necessarily had a great week might at least benefit from this racing, as it takes them into the Colorado race that comes next week, and we'll have that for you here on Eurosport, on the home of cycling. Molina here at the back of the group in the green of Caja Rural. They could do with a good result. Week hasn't quite panned out as they might have hoped, but still more opportunities for glory today, and he again is another rider who's riding solo, so he might feel that he's a little bit vulnerable and gets something of a free pass here.
Well, the gap, Declan, has gone out to 1 minute and 5 seconds to the peloton now, with this lone chaser Diaz at 55 seconds. So he made a big effort to get off the front of the peloton, and he's only 10 seconds off the front. He's putting an awful lot of effort for not much reward at the moment, as we see the bunch descending down into town, and it's a very fast descent, isn't it?
Yeah, just under 60 kilometers of racing left, so maybe a little bit less than an hour and a half of racing remaining in this stage. And for For rally cycling, well, they have a situation where the best placed rider up here is 4 minutes and 39 seconds down on general classification, so no real concerns among the, despite the fact that it's a huge group, they're not really that concerned about any of the riders up there. And it's what, 1 minute and 10 seconds up the road. So the rally cycling team continue to chase, or do they just roll through?
I think they'll keep the gap manageable. You know, they would like to win the final stage just to put the icing on the cake, so to speak. Obviously, the priority will be to win the GC, so sorry, the general classification. So they'll make sure they monitor this gap, but. It's one of those unwritten rules of cycling, isn't it? They're the team that have got the leader in their ranks, so they do need to work and sit on the front and just manage this gap. You think to yourself, well, hang on a minute, if they didn't, would anybody else sit there and do it? And you think probably not, because there are other teams up there that have got representation. There's a couple of riders at 4:39, one at 4:58, I think it was. So they you know, it's not a disaster. It's only a minute up the road, or 50 seconds now. It's come down to 1 minute 10, sorry, because we've got another chaser off the front of the bunch, and they're just about to form an alliance at the front, the two of them coming together to form a two-man chase. But as we said, you know, they're literally just off the front of the bunch at the moment. So Rally will want to keep it just manageable, and will want to be in the mix at the end of the day.
This is Eric Slack, one of the Hangar 15 riders who was in the break and actually was shelled out of it, but great job being done by number 104 here, this Silence racing rider. He's managed to close 20 seconds of the advantage of that breakaway group of 21 riders up front.
Well,
an interesting situation there for Slack.
Well, I have to say, Declan, the bottle that he took was the stickiest bottle I've ever seen, and now the team car has just paced their man off the front of the bunch. And
bit of a shake of the head there from Diaz. I think he might share your opinion on it.
That was shocking, and the fact that the commissaire was right there as well, I'd be surprised if they didn't get a fine for that. It was interesting, before we went on air today, he's just taken another bottle as well. So I think he'll get a fine for that one. It's interesting, when I was looking through the results and everything from yesterday, actually commented to you, didn't I, how many fines that the commissaires has actually doled out yesterday. Don't know if they're short on the prize fund or what, but I think there was about 14 or 15 fines banded around yesterday.
Yes, the Swiss francs were flowing yesterday. Here's the grizzled veteran Danny Pate, who's with the rally cycling team, and on the front, setting the tempo, Adam de Vos ready to take up position on the front. The Hangar 15 team still trying to encourage their rider Eric Slack, who's been up the road in the last couple of days. He was in the break yesterday, as if memory serves, and well, he's going to push on, makes a right turn. The hill awaits one more time, and it is the hill stretched out in front of him underneath the arch, and then the gradient starts to rise towards the state capital. Meanwhile, the breakaway group up front already into that challenging gradient, which is really making them suffer. Joey Roscoff to the fore, the United Healthcare squad. Jaramillo put Jaramillo into the break. And United Healthcare, as I said, many people's pre-event favourites or pre-race favourites for this particular stage, with Travis McCabe just sitting in the wheels at the moment and not making any big efforts.
Yeah, good team, United Healthcare, very good team on the American circuit. As with Jelly Belly, to be honest with you, they've been around a very long time, and they're a very well run team. You can see in the background the bunch just closing down again, and this gap will yo-yo, won't it, given the nature of this circuit?
Yeah, 1 minute and 10 seconds is not quite as much distance on the road on a climb as it is on a flat road or a descent, so you're going to see it concertina, but the gap between them in time is not necessarily changing. Having said that, the timer has been a little bit sticky through the week, so we haven't always had perfectly accurate, consistent or swift changes, I suppose, in the time gaps between the riders. Suffice it to say, Jaramillo of the United Healthcare squad is doing a great job on the front for the United Healthcare team at the moment, at the front of the breakaway group. We're over halfway on the final stage of the Larry H. Miller Tour of Utah for 2017, and this is the big great breakaway group that has formed through several attacks and launches off the front of the bunch. Eventually sitting at a group of 17 riders up front. We've had riders dropped out of it, we've had others coming across, and we've got riders continuing to suffer. This is Mikael Rime just at the back of the group here, and just 2 riders in front of him is Travis McCabe. Now Rime has been 3rd place. He's a 4th place finish from the sprints already this week, and the Israel Cycling Academy team have backed him to produce a stage victory again today. Can it happen? Well, Travis McCabe in there already has a stage victory. Meanwhile, Eric Slack continues to toil on alone in his efforts to get back on terms.
So Eric Slack, Hangar 51, formerly known as Canyon Racing Team, nothing to do with Canyon Bikes, and that's part of the reason why they changed their name. And here you can see the break at the chase group. This is what's left of the peloton, still being led by Rally Pro Cycling, but no real urgency on the front there. They're just chipping through at the moment.
Yeah, Rob Britton in conversation with his teammate there, just managing the situation and making sure that everybody's motivated. That was Adam DeVos just in conversation, and DeVos has done, well, selfless work throughout the week, and it really has been a wonderful team performance from Rally Cycling. Eventually, by the time they got to the closing stages of yesterday's climb to Snowbird, well, Rob Britton found himself alone, but by that time his team had done an immense amount of work in chasing down the BMC-led attack in the valley. And there's the situation, as I say, over halfway, and on that climb again through the finish line, and it continues to ramp up and through the park, and eventually winds its way through to a descent, takes them back down to the start of the climb again. It comes again and again and again, and sometimes they would prefer 11 different hills rather than the same one 11 times.
Yeah, 4 more complete times up this climb plus the finish one, and you can see here this is the sort of parkland that we see at the top of the map. The riders going around the north of the city. Eric Slack still pushing on here from Hangar 51.
It's a local team based in Utah. Loads of representation in the break yesterday. And Eric Slack has managed to get in there again today. Steve Fisher, of course, was working with him up front. And they were playing the old one too, weren't they? Lots and lots of attacks. No lack of ambition from them. Here's the bunch behind, stretched out in one long line, but is it flat chatter, or is it just a case of lining out behind the Rally Cycling team? Just behind the orange-clad jerseys, and of course that distinctive yellow jersey of the overall race leader. There's the 3 riders from United Healthcare, and among them Gavin Mannion sitting 2nd overall.
Certainly a little bit more activity in the bunch now. They're pushing on slightly more than they were when they were going up the climb, but by no stretch of the imagination is it full gas trying to chase down this bunch.
Roscoff continues to set the tempo on the front of the peloton. Senni in fine form yesterday, and perhaps this is how they're setting up. Remember, Dillier is there as well, the Swiss champion.
Yeah, and Senni leaving BMC at the end of this year to go over and ride for CSF Bardiani. So interesting one there yesterday.
Yeah, finished 7th on the stage, just a minute and 14 seconds down, so it was a good solid effort from Manuel Senni, and he threw it out there. Best placed rider from the BMC team after brave effort from Brent Bookwalter. Eventually finished 10th on the stage. Was dropped by that GC leaders, the general classification leaders. Eventually finishing 2 minutes and 6 seconds behind the leader of the stage, the winner of the stage, Giulio Ciccone, who had 35 seconds in hand over his teammate. And it was a great scrap to the line. Gavin Mannion eventually chasing down, or at least attempting to chase down, Nielsen Paulus, the Axion Hagens Berman rider, the best young rider, and he extended his advantage in the lead of that competition, did Nielsen Paulus yesterday. And Mannion too defended his situation, ensured that he stays in 2nd, and Sergei Dvetsov has actually slipped a little bit, a few seconds gained by Nielsen Paulus, and those few seconds mean that he's now within touching distance of the podium. He's just 3 seconds behind Sergei Dvetsov, and the difference between 4th and 3rd is pretty significant. And in an event such as this, as Eric Slack takes every advantage that he possibly can, running inside the team helpers, standing on the climb waiting to distribute bottles. Look at the elevation that we've gained. We're now above the state capital. It gives you a great representation of it there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it shows you how long this climb goes on for as well. It literally is, you know, the lap is half uphill and half downhill, and some of it very steep as well. You could see the run into the finish. That really is going to make this an interesting race. That finish kilometre from the bottom where they turn right, that really is very steep.
We did a great job, Eric Slack, and I wonder if he didn't actually have some sort of a mechanical difficulty or some other problem, because to me he's actually looks as if he's closing down and has reduced the deficit to the riders up front, so he could well get back in here yet.
Yeah, bottle just dropped there by the rider from Rally Pro Cycling on the front, but they've still got the full team there, haven't they? And just going for a feed bag, and the now very fashionable ice sock that everyone seems to have to get when the temperature's even slightly above 10 degrees.
Yeah, it's hot here. As you said earlier, it's not humid, so it's not quite as sticky as it can get, but it certainly is hot, and riders need to be attentive of that. At altitude it might feel a little bit cooler than it actually is, and racing along in the bunch, but you can be sure that fluid replacement is very much at the top of the agenda. And as you say, he's got the yellow jersey, has all of those orange jerseys around him. 6 teammates to the 4. United Healthcare in a similar position of strength, and that's the way Rob Britton will want to play it. He'll want to have as many teammates there as possible, as the gap between the riders up front and the main peloton stretches out to 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's even going a little bit higher than that, because look at the way they're absolutely charging along on the front of the break. Yeah,
looking at the effort some of these riders are putting in as well. This is going to split when they head into town and hit that climb again. Could see, as you said, sorry Declan, the Rally Pro Cycling had all but one of their riders on the front. I think he had just stopped to pick up a couple of food bags as well, so a great ride by them to control and dominate this race at the moment.
And the Hangar 15 riders are riding through. They had 3 in the break, but Eric Slack, as we've seen, is behind at the moment. Chad Beyer and Mancebo continuing to ride. Well, riders up front extending their advantage. It's a great opportunity for them. We'll see, do they hang on? Going to get another break out of the way. Back after these. The Rally Cycling team continue to set the agenda on the front of the peloton on the final stage of the Tour of Utah, in pursuit of a group of 17 riders up front with a gap of 1 minute and 20 seconds. As the Rally Cycling team, well, what great work they've done today, but now a little bit of assistance too from the Nippo Vini Fantini and the Bardiani CSF teams, because at this point they're starting to get a little bit concerned. The Nippo Vini Fantini team are up front. They've got Cima there to do a job for them, and Bardiani as well have riders, but they might not believe that those are the riders that they want to protect and bet on for later. The main peloton are in pursuit of these 17 riders, and it's a gap of north of a minute still. Indeed, it's 1 minute and 20 and rising, and now it's starting to become a concern for a couple of the Italian pro-continental outfits, because Nippo Vini Fantini have put 2 riders on the front to assist the Rally Pro Cycling team. Just a little bit concerned that the pace they were going at wasn't going to close this one down. 1 minute and 25 seconds, so a few seconds gained by the 17 riders up front. Still, Eric Slack continues to chase alone in between. He's had a long slog to get back on terms with his Hangar 15 teammates that are up there. And Bardiani CSF, well, they've got representation in the group, as indeed of Nippo Vini Fantini. Santromita and Damiano Cima were in there. I'm not sure if they're still in there. I'm pretty sure I saw one jersey from the Nippo Vini Fantini squad, but perhaps they've been shelled. Let's try and pick them out. So we look at the group up front on the descent from the climb, and Bardiani certainly are in there. They've got 2 riders, Nippo Vini Fantini. See if we can find them, but Lorenzo Rota and Simone Sterbini have managed to retain a position at the head of affairs, as Daniel Jaramillo continues to ride tempo. Sylvain Dillier and Joey Roscoff also keen to keep this break riding.
So it actually looks flat, doesn't it, here? But you can see the way the riders are riding down here. They're still on the descent. and a very fast running into town, and that's day over for the rider from Hangar 15.
Yeah, brave effort for Eric Slack, but finds himself mopped up by the peloton. He tried and he tried and he tried, but he wasn't able to regain his position at the front. And the fact that he's swept up with such efficiency, cold-blooded efficiency, you might say, by Nippo Fantini suggests to me that the hammer has gone down in the peloton, and we're going to see an update on that time. Will it be to their advantage? Bardiani CSF just lined out behind them with so 2 riders from Nippo Fantini, 1 rider from Bardiani CSF, and then the Rally Pro Cycling team of the overall race leader back at the front. Axion Hagens Berman, William Barta to scrap to get back in there. Travis McCabe sitting 3rd wheel here is an interesting character, isn't he? Great stage win on the 5th stage. Across the bountiful table and down into the finish line, got back into the group literally inside the final kilometre, found his way to the front of the group and was able to sprint it out for glory, and he is a bit of a warm favourite. He's put himself into position, of course, to take these sprint points at the end of this lap, so we'll watch out for that. Laps 3 and 7. McCabe not involved to the first sprint. The second one could offer him an opportunity to extend his 9-point lead in that competition.
So a group like this, it's very hard to manage it and to get everybody working. 24 riders up here now, and to get everyone pulling through, you're probably going to see you'll get 6, maybe 10 riders working. Someone else will come through every 1 out of 3 opportunities or times that you expect them to come through, and then the rest of the guys will just sit on the back. When it's like this, when you've got a group this size on a circuit like this, you know it's going to split again at some point, so you might as well save your matches for later on in the day. And just had a question come in on Twitter, and they said, why is it called the Larry H. Miller Tour of Utah? Well, Larry H. Miller is Lawrence Hornmiller, and he's actually a very well-renowned and wealthy businessman in the Utah area, and owns the Utah Jazz, the basketball team, and also owns about 60 motor dealerships in and around Western America, amongst many other things that he does. And
he doesn't just sponsor this race, he actually owns it,
yeah,
and has done since 2010. And the purchase of this race was intended to put it on a sound financial footing and take it to a new level. And it had sort of drifted in and out of UCI status since its inception, or its creation as a fully fledged professional race in 2004. From 2010 onwards, then it had the money to invite the teams and put the financial structure around it, and it's been a very important addition to the UCI program that exists in United States cycling. They've got 5 big-time UCI races, this being one of them, and it's self-billed as America's toughest bike race. Is it? Well, it's pretty tough for many of the riders.
And he actually owns a couple of financial institutions as well, and he's got, you know, he's
doing okay.
He's doing okay for himself. He's got quite a lot in the bank, so I think this race is on a very sound financial footing, shall we say.
Taking it back to Salt Lake City for the final stage. And Travis McCabe is lurking in 4th position. He's totally focused, maximum attention, because he wants those 5 points. A 9-point lead in the competition, 15 on offer at the finish line at the end of this race, and 5 for each of the 2 sprints. None of the contenders for this sprints competition were involved in the first sprint of the day, but he'll just rubber stamp his situation at the head of the classification. This is, I do believe, going to take him 14 points clear in the competition when he makes the finish line, always assuming that he takes the first place across the line. I think there's little doubt about that, as Jan Emilio just winds it up. Hangar 15 are going to contest. 19 riders up front. McCabe doesn't face any challenge. Takes the points, job done. Will he go back towards the back of the group again? Counting 19 riders up there.
Yep, 19 riders in the lead group, and 27 miles to go. It says 21 riders up the top of the screen, but just had a quick count up and it was 19. But here come the peloton, or what's left of it, as they're shredding riders through the finish, and Cajaruel starting to put the pressure on. We see Rally Cycling have gone away from the front for a while. They're still looking after their leader overall. certainly not there in the numbers that they were before, and maybe they're quite happy for somebody else just to take up the pace making for a while. Canola, as you can see, got one rider up the front there and one in 4th place as well, so it just takes the pressure off of them for a couple of miles.
So down to 55 seconds, so that'll tell you just how hard they're going in the peloton as another team comes to the front. One rider for Rally, one rider for Canola in the green, and Nippo-Vini Fantini. Bardiani have gone missing. Maybe they've decided that they're satisfied with the riders they've got up front, or maybe they're just happy that other teams are willing to do the work and they don't feel that they have any responsibility to do that. But down to 55 seconds, first time in a long time it's been less than a minute. So with still quite a decent distance to go, well over 40 kilometers of racing remaining, they'll be able to get back in. Stage 7 of the Tour of Utah for 2017 is hotting up nicely in every sense. Constant communication with the team car behind for the rally cycling squad as they want to make sure that they've got Rob Britton in a perfectly satisfied position. They've also got an opportunity, I think, as you said earlier, Tony, that they might be thinking about going for stage honours as well. Colin Joyce finished 4th on the first stage, so definitely a rider who can get over these short climbs and could well be able to challenge. Confirmation, Travis McCabe adding to his points total, and now with that 14-point lead over Marco Canola. Canola of Nippo-Vini Fantini would need to win the stage with McCabe pretty much nowhere in order to win this competition. Best climber competition's already gone the way of Jacob Ratha. He just has to ride it through to the finish today to be confirmed as winner of the King of the Mountains, and a great second place finish on the first of the 2 climbs yesterday, and he needed to be second across that climb because ultimately Giulio Ciccone of Bardiani, who took the overall took the stage honours, moved up to within 1 point of Jacob Ratha on the final climb of the day. So Ratha did what he needed to, got in the breaks during the week, made sure he got in the break yesterday, and has won the King of the Mountains competition. Hangar 15, riding through.
Doing a lot of work on the front, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got 2 riders in here. Did see their teammate Eric Slack out the back, but Manchebo and Chad Byer deep in conversation, the local Utah team.
The 2 Bardiani riders, have got no interest in doing any work there, and it just looks like this break is starting to stall. We're coming in lap 8 of 11 this is, so it's just getting to that stage where, you know, the riders are starting to think about, hang on a minute, we've got this gap, but we've got to start thinking about the finish and the stage win now.
Saw Joey Roscoff just rolling up towards the front. I wonder if with the lack of impetus there, the BMC team are thinking perhaps about launching an attack, just trying to thin this one out a little bit and see who's interested in actually riding in the peloton behind. Well, no lack of willing helpers, because Caja Rural have put 2 riders into the chase. Nippo-Vini Fantini with 2, just 1 for rally cycling, and then lined up behind them we've got United Healthcare sitting in front of the yellow jersey now, who's just in front of a few teammates, but safely in position in about 9th or 10th place in the line, and it's very much a line.
Yeah, and BMC, they're probably going to be a little bit disappointed about what they've got out of this race. No one up there on GC, the only World Tour team to come here, so they're probably going to be looking to do something today.
Yeah, 1-stage victory for Brent Bookwalter earlier in the week when it looked as if it would be so much more successful, but now he's certain, I think, in 5th position. Here comes Senni to the front. We haven't seen too much of him, and there's the split that I suggested might be about to happen as Senni just tries to convert this little one, and Roscoff thereabouts as well behind, as Bardiani CSF have the tall rangy figure of Simone Sterbini second on yesterday's stage, and Sterbini has recovered well. Manuel Senni 7th, Sterbini 2nd yesterday, and also in there we have Oscar Clark, the sole representative of Nippo-Vini Fantini. Ivan Santoramita is also in there as Joey Roscoff knits back up. So the very strongest riders have come up to the fore and made this a very, very select group up front. Interesting that Santa Romita from Nippo Vini Fantini is riding into this group. His team are chasing behind.
Yeah, and don't forget as well, Sterbini was closing Ciccone down at the end of yesterday's stage on the climb. So the Nippo Vini Fantini rider as well there, as you say, in 4th place, not putting in too much work, and it looks like this one is at least going to come back together, or a couple of riders are going to get across to it as Sterbini goes again.
Simone Sterbini has decided enough is enough, and he's going to see who can possibly chase him down. He goes alone, and it's Seni from the BMC squad. Down to 45 seconds, the advantage from the front of this breakaway group, and Sterbini will press on, and I think he's certainly showing plenty of ambition. He showed that yesterday. Seni has gone with him, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Declan. These two will be teammates next year as they push on off of the front. And the result of this is that the bunch are closing this gap down. It says 45 seconds. Really don't think it is, because they're pulling the team cars out. So we could have everyone back together very soon.
So neutral service takes its position, or removes its place from in between the two groups. Well, look at that for revving on as Sterbini hanging out of a big gear. Slightly higher cadence. Well, that's about the same really for Manuel Seni from the BMC squad. And where are the chasers behind? They're starting to open up a little bit of daylight. Well, it's changing radically and changing quickly. Sterbini up front, Nippo Vini Fantini chasing behind. Going to get a quick break out of the way. Back to you again. Well, Manuel Seni is waiting for no other man, is he? Because Simone Sterbini not quite as comfortable on the descent, and the BMC man has opened up a little bit of daylight, and Sterbini is going to have to try and close this one down. Will Seni look around and see where Sterbini is? Is he even interested? He looks around, he's certainly interested, but is he interested in waiting is the question.
Doesn't want to go on his own. It's a long way to go from there.
Sterbini is back with him. 10 seconds to a single rider chasing. It'd be nice to know who that was, because the remains of the breakaway scattered all over the road, and they're absolutely pushing. And Sterbini and Seni just shoulder to shoulder there, albeit briefly, but now into that familiar rotation. Simone Sterbini of the Bardiani CSF squad is out front and racing to glory. He would hope it's glory anyway on the final stage of the Tour of Utah, with the company of Manuel Seni of the BMC squad, the only World Tour team in this race. Seni was not satisfied with the total cooperation of the big group of 21 riders clear of the peloton. The peloton were starting to ink into their advantage. Eke in. They were closing it down, whatever way you come. Eat in. Well, yeah. They'd slashed it down to 45 seconds. Now they've managed to put a little bit more daylight between themselves and the rest, but well, their bodies all over the road at the moment, aren't there? There's one rider chasing at a remove of around about 10 seconds, then the remains of the break in various states of discombobulation, and then the peloton just under a minute back. And it's solid work being done by Sterbini and Seni, but can they really hope to hold off the big group behind? Because this is the main peloton, chasing it just under a minute behind, and it's the Nippo Vini Fantini squad in the at the front in the orange colours, with the assistance of the Spanish team, Caja Rural. And behind them, the orange-clad rally cycling riders with that yellow jersey in amongst them, Rob Britton, their teammate.
And the problem now for the two riders that are away, it's just the two of them. They've got to share the work. They've got to push on as hard as they can. What that means is when they come up to that climb, they're going to be really in oxygen debt and struggling. So this gap could come down very quickly indeed.
Brave effort. Was it foolhardy? That's the question. The attack by Sterbini at that moment, when about 5 of them had assembled.
It had to happen sooner or later. A group of 20 weren't going to ride to the finish like that. There were just too many passengers there, so someone had to do it. I think they would have liked to have got a group of 6 or 7 away, not just the 2 of them.
Yeah, well, I guess they had about 5 or 6, didn't they? And then Sterbini wasn't satisfied that there was total cooperation there. I think perhaps the Nippo Vinifantini representative Ivan Santoramita might have just prevented total cooperation there. Sterbini raced on. He's a young man, clearly a man in a hurry. Seni too, just ready to make this right-hander and head for the hills once more. They'll see face down in front of them the imposing dome of the Utah State Capitol. It's a beautiful building, and it really is. It's very much in the character of state capitals all over the United States. Built in 1912. It certainly looks well. Heading up towards the top of the hill. There's the bunch behind, and they're going to mop up the 17 riders from the breakaway group within seconds. There's definitely not 25 seconds between them at the moment, is there?
No, and I don't think the two breakaway riders are much further up the road either. And when we do start these climbs properly, the gaps are going to come down very quickly.
Sylvain Dillier at the back of the group here, the Swiss national champion, has done his job. But look at this, the big bunch going to hunt them down, and then it'll all start again. Well, they've got to get, of course, to the first two up front, but it's a narrow advantage. As you say, it can't be much more than 10 or 15 seconds. Now
the race really starts. This is the race proper after the early exchanges for the day.
Yeah, that was the hors d'oeuvre, and this is the main course. Underneath that kilometre to go kite, and immediately we almost run into that hill, don't you? Bump.
Well, you'd like to. You'd like to get a real good run up at that one.
Yeah, nobody's, not too many of them are going to be able to carry the big ring all the way up this one, are they?
No, and you can see the problem now is where they caught the breakaway. The breakaway riders had been out all day. They came back into the bunch. They were in that narrow section because there was a central reservation, and they couldn't get round the slower riders, so it all just slowed down and got messy for a couple of seconds.
Israel Cycling Academy go on the attack to try and race across to these riders right at the state capitol, then make a left. And then the climb will grip once more. 3 riders on the counter. Bardiani CSF, well, they did a lot of chasing to try and make sure they could get a rider out front. Is it Ciccone once more?
Interesting one that Bardiani are going after the break. They've got one up the road already. They're obviously not confident they're going to stay away, and it looks like they've been joined up the front here by another rider from the Israel Cycling Academy.
Yeah, I say they were chasing. They were chasing a little while ago, and then they decided to stall it up. So Seni with Sterbini.
Yeah, it's not the Israel Cycling Academy. It's the Cycland cycling team who have managed to get a rider across there, it seems.
Oh, very impressive work. Massive oxygen debt, time to recover. Another rider's coming across. Well, Caharural had to launch. They don't have an established sprinter. They haven't been up in the sprints all week, so they have to get a rider up the road. And all that chasing was very much with the mind of trying to create a new breakaway group, and they've done that.
So these are the odd riders that are left over from the initial breakaway group. So Manseba there, I think it is, for Hangar 15, just getting across, or trying to get across.
Yes, a figure with a checkered past in the sport. Chebo, very much a grizzled veteran at this point, 41 years of age. Rally cycling team back on the front, keeping Rob Britton safe and well to the fore. He looks in control of things at the moment. So there are a total of 3 laps remaining of this 10-kilometer circuit in the final stage of the Tour of Utah, as the big bunch is more or less put back together again. But, well, a couple of riders up front in the shape of Simone Sterbini here for the Bardiani CSF squad, and at the back of this group of 4 riders is Emmanuel Seni of the Team BMC squad, and they've been joined by a couple of riders who've clipped across. Caharural have put a rider up here. Silence Racing as well have managed to put a rider. Is this Kyle Murphy? Now let's pick up the numbers and just tell you Molina is there, as indeed is Kyle Murphy. Yep, Kyle Murphy, who's had a pretty good week, slipped back to 15th on general classification, having been well up in the top 10 at one stage, but clearly a strong rider for the Silence Academy squad. Only team riding discs in this Tour of Utah. They feel that's the right option. And I know you have plenty of views on it, Tony, with the arrival of discs in the peloton. Is it good for racing, or is it good for the sport? Doesn't seem to be much of a hindrance to them at the moment.
I think if you look at the pro peloton, they have the option to use them, and it's not exactly a stampede to get the new bikes with discs on. We saw Marcel Kittel using them at the Tour de France before he was forced to withdraw. He didn't use them in every stage, but did use them in a couple. And I think it's something that's being more led by the manufacturers than it is by the riders. I think they have their place. I think if you only own one bike, or if you want a winter bike with that extra little bit of braking, then great. But in terms of racing, I don't think anyone's rushing out to buy a new bike just because it's got discs on.
Well, Manchego not quite making it across on this occasion, the Hangar 15 rider. So he's going to slip back to a group of 3 chasers. It includes James Piccoli. Piccoli, of course, great top 3 finish on stage 2, the first mountain ascent of the week. Really showing his class, and the climbs are of no concern to him. Lorenzo Rota as well for Bardiani CSF was trying to skip across. Daniel Jaramillo is in the break all day. So 4 at the moment out front with well, it's 4 riders chasing, and Manchego's about to be joined by another 3 to make it 4 chasing 4, and then the peloton. Well, they were right on terms starting the climb last time round. Now they've slipped back to 45 seconds back. Kyle Murphy riding up to the front for the Silence squad as they head through the feed zone once more. Molina from Caja Rural in the green, just grabbing a bottle safely. Senni at the back for BMC. Manchego now grabs a bottle as he's picked up by the 3 chasers. Lorenzo Rota here for the Bardiani CSF. The position of strength it would be for them if there were 8 up front and they had 2.
So the Caja Rural rider, Molina, he wasn't actually listed as being in that breakaway, but he was in the initial breakaway of the day. So these 4 riders have been out there for most of the day. We can just see here the remnants of the breakaway, the chase group trying to get across, just stuck a little bit in no man's land at the moment, aren't they? 20 seconds, 15 seconds behind those 4 leaders, and then the bunch at a further 45 seconds again, which the bunch won't be panicking about that at this stage. To close down, it's just jumped 10 seconds to close down 35 seconds on 4 riders at the moment who have been out there all day on a circuit like this with the steepness of the gradients. Won't be too much of a problem for the bunch.
Antonio Molina was the best placed rider in that breakaway group today. 4 minutes and 39 seconds down, relatively diminutive figure for the Caja Rural squad. As I say, not too concerned about the length and the steepness of the hill that they've faced today, but I suppose the repetitive nature is going to catch them out. If they did have 8 up front and they were working well together, well, it would be interesting to see how that affected their chances. But the peloton are really not that far behind. We see that motorcycle just on the right-hand side of picture is, I think, the peloton just behind them. So, yeah, indeed, rally cycling once more on the front. Caja Rural have done their job. They've towed it back. Nippo Vini Fantini have to a certain extent gone back in their box as well and left it up to the rally cycling team, who set a tempo, and they're not that concerned about those riders up front.
No, they're not. Their ultimate goal is to win this race overall on GC, and they've got that under control at the moment. It was interesting to see the United Healthcare team had 4 riders lined up just behind them. They will be looking to take this stage. They will be looking to put Travis McCabe in a position to win this stage. As you said earlier, quite rightly, Declan, he's a rider that you know, he can sprint, but he's a better climber than most of the other sprinters, and we can see here coming together at the front. So the race now covered by no more than 30 seconds from front to back.
Well, 4 about to become 8 up front on this final stage of the Tour of Utah, as our 4 chasers are just about to make the junction, and that's going to be good news for Bardiani CSF, and it's dangling at around about, what, half a minute back for the main peloton. Will they give them a little bit more rope than that which they've got at the moment. Manchego at the back here for the Hangar 15 squad. Just in front of him, number 111, is James Piccoli for the Elevate KHS Pro Cycling team. Number 44 for Bardiani CSF, that's Lorenzo Rota, who's about to join up with his teammate Simone Sterbini in the plain blue colours of the United Healthcare squad, represented by Daniel Jaramillo, who's been in the breakaway group all day, and they're about to just make the junction with the four that's raced on clear of the breakaway group of 17. So it's been all action in this stage, and it's been hectic, isn't it? It's hard to keep up with the amount of changes, but hugely entertaining stuff, and all of these riders have really come to race.
And all of a sudden it'll be advantage Bardiani CSF with 2 riders in a front group of 8, and we saw yesterday they took first and second on the stage, so they've obviously got a strong squad here.
Yeah, Jaramillo is going for a gel, feeling the distance. 7 tough days of racing. This is not a particularly long stage, but well, the legs won't have been will have taken a little coaxing back into action, because 7 tough days of stage racing at this altitude as well doesn't suit everyone, but Jaramillo is a rider that's well used to it. 8 riders now up front on the 3rd last lap. Just time for a quick exchange of views with Manuel Seni. The peloton at a remove of half a minute. Will they manage to extend their advantage? Find out after these. Difficult moment for the Elevate rider.
Yeah, it was a nasty corner there, and we did say earlier how fast this descent is going into town, and Piccoli there just didn't manage to get round that corner and touch the curb and ended up on the grass. Actually very lucky to come to a stop when he did, and not carry on into that I think it was a telegraph pole, or there was certainly some sort of pole there, which if he had hit that would have been a very nasty incident.
Yeah, struggling to get back into it as Sterbini wants to get a move on. He's not minded to hang around and wait for James Piccoli, so 8 becomes 7 up front. Molina continuing to make a contribution, jumped across from the peloton and has added fresh legs to this ride. Well, we had 8 riders up front. That's down to 7, I can tell you, because in the last while, James Piccoli of the Elevate KHS Pro Cycling, already a 3rd place finisher on a stage this week in the Tour of Utah, came to grief on a downhill right-hander, found himself hitting the curb, and it was a nasty looking crash, but I do believe he managed to get up. We wait for full confirmation on that, but they're not hanging around. And Simone Sterbini, the tall, rangy figure, he sits tall on a bike, doesn't he, for Bardiani CSF, but what an effective bike rider he is. The more compact figure of Molina of Caja Rural continues to do what he can, and Nippo Vini Fantini back on the front after all that great work to close it down earlier on. Thinking about Marco Canola, their sprinter, who's been in good form this week, but yet to come up with the really big result. Nippo Vini Fantini just saw riders clipping across and creating a new breakaway group, so they have to go back to the front.
Yeah, it's only 20 seconds now though, so this one is gonna come back together. We keep saying that, don't we? But every time we hit that climb, something changes and the dynamic of the race alters. You can see here Hangar 15 with Mancebo pushing on the front. And 7 riders now in this lead group, 15 miles to go and a 15-second gap. And every time we get this overhead picture running into town, it amazes me how wide this road is at the front. And you can see there, they've got them in their sights now, and I think this time up the climb, we should see this come back together.
Well, next time across the line, they'll have 2 laps remaining of this just a 10-kilometer circuit. And Rob Britton is making sure that he stays as close to the front as possible. It's not a whole lot more than 8 seconds, I think, between the front of this race and this peloton, which is starting to get organized into team formation. They're thinking about the finishing sprint, though they have fully 2 and a bit laps remaining.
Yep, around this corner again, and as you said last time, they can see the Capitol building in front of them, and it was just 8 seconds just before that climb on a manual count, not using the race count, and you can see there it's not even that now.
Sterbini and Manchebo have been called to account. Kyle Murphy continues to resist, but the peloton are ranged out behind them. And Murphy, well, he's looking to be the last man standing from this group, and no doubt hoping that perhaps some fresh legs could come across to him. The silence rider with the... that's a hell of a haircut, isn't it? Peter Sagan inspired haircut. 15th overall, 5 minutes and 28 seconds back. It's been a pretty strong week.
Sagan shaved it all off now.
Yes, and does that mean he has to? Wow, good question. Lorenzo Rota, most aggressive rider on one of the stages earlier this week, showing plenty of legs to just skip across to Kyle Murphy. This looks like Senni that's continuing to resist as well, just hanging on clear of the peloton, and Jaramillo as well. Jaramillo on the United Healthcare squad in blue.
Plenty of effort there on the face of Senni, isn't there? Trying to get this one away again.
Through the right-hander. Looking to make the left and head towards the finish line. Just time for a quick review. Other riders coming across. Looks to me as if United Healthcare have decided to put a rider up the road. Not playing the... Well, they are probably playing the Travis McCabe card, but not in terms of just lining it out with all the riders on the front.
Kyle Murphy here from Silence is doing a great ride. One of the smaller American teams really pushing on and showing himself and the team in a great light.
Maybe Acevedo of the United Healthcare. Sorry, I was just trying to see exactly who that was, as Kyle Murphy's going to lead them through the line with two laps remaining.
Well, we said it was going to get caught the next time up the climb, and it looked for all the tea in China like it was, and then it's gone out again.
Well, it's just a handful of seconds, but fantastic resistance from Kyle Murphy and cohorts, and Rob Britton looking relatively comfortable in there at the moment.
Still got the full team around him, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's got the honour of wearing that yellow jersey, so he has the prime position at the front of the peloton, and he'd be given just that little bit of extra room to manoeuvre in and around the group. The group strung out.
Last thing you ever want to do is make the leader of the race crash. You won't be very popular there at all.
Yeah, there is a force field around a yellow jersey, isn't there, in a race? Yeah, no one wants to be the one. Amoravita put a rider in there. That's the black jersey with the blue sleeves there. The Albanian registered squad that's thought of more as an Italian team. They had Bernard Netti up the road earlier on in the initial break.
That squad's been registered in every country in Europe at some point or another. It was registered in Great Britain, I think, going back to about 1998 or 99 even.
Indeed. It's been they've been sponsoring teams since late 50s, early 60s. It's been a long time. Not total accord in there, is there? No. Cara Rural just trying to excite a little bit more of a contribution.
So yes, certainly not everybody pulling through and working. The bunch will be able to see across this valley and see the leading 6 riders just up the road there. And as you say, the Amoravita team just pushing on. They haven't been out there all day in the breakaway, so they will have a slightly fresher pair of legs.
So now it is a group of 7 riders up front. United Healthcare have put 2 in there. Jaramillo's done great work already today. Senni's there for the BMC squad. Rota for the Bardiani CSF team. Kyle Murphy in the black and green colours with the flowing tresses. He's the man from the Silence squad. Not S-I-L-E-N-C-E, you understand? C-Y-L-A-N-C-E. The peloton continuing to be marshalled and policed by the rally team, and that's not R-A-L-E-I-G-H, it's R-A-L-L-Y.
It's all very confusing, isn't it?
It's a spelling test, as ever in the United States, isn't it? Lap 10 of 11. The penultimate tour of this very interesting layout that they've given it to us here in the final stage of the Tour of Utah. I think it's a tough climb, and it's an honest one, isn't it? And it's helped to create some great racing.
I'm amazed, given the severity of the climb, how many riders are still left in that front bunch, to be honest with you. I know it's been, you know, a fairly controlled stage and the pace hasn't really been on, but even still, after the racing that we've had this week and at the altitude that we're at, thought there would have been more riders dropped up until this stage.
Well, once more it seemed that the break was coming back and that all of the riders involved would be back in the safety and the shelter of the peloton, but nope, they counted with that. The resistance, particularly of Kyle Murphy and several other of his erstwhile breakaway companions, most notably Molina of the Canola squad, and Senni at the back here. And Senni looks like he's starting to feel the pinch a little bit, or maybe he's just not totally comfortable. But it does look as if there's pretty good cooperation here, and all these riders are tapping through. They're tapping through as if it sounds easy, but the way they're pulling faces and the gradient, and given the fact that we're coming towards the back end of this stage, I think those riders are really starting to suffer.
Yeah, and it's a much better sized group, just 7 riders going away this time. So United Healthcare have 2 riders up there, and you can see just how much we climb up. We're right down in the basin there from the other side of the city building, and then we climb up here to the top of this climb and loop back round. So we're never very far from where we start or finish, and it's a lovely circuit.
I think this is Halilai from the Amora Vita squad, just behind the green Canola rider.
Gap's massive. The gap's gone out so quickly to the chasing group behind. They weren't even in the background shot a second ago.
Kyle Murphy rides a relatively small gear compared to the other several other riders in the group, but it's a very, very effective style. He looks like he's full of fight. This is Halilai of the Amora Vita squad, the Albanian rider, Albanian registered team.
Yeah, so they had Bernardinetti up there earlier on in the original breakaway, so a fresh pair of legs, as we said earlier, gone across to this 7-man group. So they're pushing on very quickly now, up to 40 seconds, and maybe Rally have just said, hey, you know, we're going for the overall now. We've done a lot of riding all day. Over to you guys if you want to win the stage.
Do you know what? I think this is actually Manuel Sola of the Canola squad that has infiltrated this move. So they've swapped riders. Molina has gone back in, and Sola has headed up front. So Canola haven't managed to take a whole lot out of the week. Plenty of ambition, and their director sportive has given them the instruction. They're here to race. We're into the final 2 laps of racing here in Utah. Gonna get our final break out of the way. Back to you after these. Welcome back. It's the closing stages of the final stage of the Tour of Utah. Manuel Senni on the back of this group here, as 2 riders have clipped off the front, and they're not satisfied with the total level of cooperation. It's 7 riders. It looked as if it was quite a good one, but that's just a narrow advantage of 35 seconds as Halilai of the Amora Vita squad has decided to try his luck off the front on this rippling descent back down towards the bottom of the course in Salt Lake City. He's been joined by the irrepressible Kyle Murphy. His energy knows no bounds as he's jumped across, and United Healthcare with those 2 riders in there, well, they've missed the boat on this one, or chosen not to go with it. Might be closer to the truth, as Daniel Jaramillo and Yanni Acevedo have now gone to the front of this one. Senni's just punching tickets at the moment. The green-clad rider in there, second from the back, Lorenzo Rota is the front of the bunch. So we're down to the final 10 miles of racing, make that 16 kilometers of racing in the final stage of the Tour of Utah. They're piling down the descent and heading towards the bell. They'll make the right turn at the bottom of this descent as riders are trying to just close down the gap to the group of 7 riders out front. It's a 35-second advantage. I say 7, it's actually 2 plus 5, because Halilai of the Amora Vita squad just not satisfied and has decided with the pace of the group he was in, and he's decided to just try his luck with an attack, and that's been covered by Kyle Murphy. So those two with maybe a 5-7 second advantage over the remaining 5 riders.
The right turn here where James Pickley had that nasty little crash last time round. Everyone gets round this time nice and safe.
And the bunch are absolutely flat chat. Here's the riders up front. Kyle Murphy hunkers down low over the top tube. Halalai crouches down over the bars and sits in the wake of his breakaway companion. It's a narrow advantage over the others, and it's no more than 35 seconds of even that on the peloton behind. Can they possibly hang on? Well, they've got a racer's chance of at least taking the bell in the lead of this race, and Kyle Murphy, well, he deserves something for his attacking form so far. He's really been
all
up for
day,
it.
Hasn't he?
Yeah, he went in that early move. Silence would dearly love to emerge with a stage victory. Halalai, the Albanian rider, has been very aggressive in lots of the moves through the week, particularly on the stage taken by the United Healthcare rider Travis McCabe, the stage to Bountiful, stage 5, 2 days ago.
Working very well together, these two as well. You know, really, chomping at the bit to get through and do their turn, as opposed to hesitating and trying to save something in the leg. So 2 of the lower division teams really trying to step up in this race.
And behind the 5 riders chasing include the 2 from United Healthcare, Daniel Jaramillo and Yanira Acevedo. And they have missed the boat a little bit with this one. Lorenzo Roda's there as well for Bardiani, as indeed is Manuel Sola of the Carroral squad, and Manuel Seni as well. Look at the damage going on behind as riders are really starting to suffer. At the back of the group here is Evan Huffman, who's I wonder will he be able to come back up for the rally cycling team, or is he just sitting on the back? What a wonderful job that he's doing, showing 40 seconds, and that'll give them a little bit of encouragement. That'll give them great heart. The gap is going out at the moment, and these riders are really putting it up to the bunch behind. Evan Huffman, I just picked him out. He's been on the front. He won 2 stages of the Amgen Tour of California World Tour race earlier on this year, but he's been selfless in his assistance to try and help Rob Britt to take the overall victory. And so far, it's all going to plan, but will it go to plan for these 2 riders out front?
So Halalai at the front, just going to the back now in the black and blue. And his breakaway companion Kyle Murphy from Silence cycling in the black and green as they take this turn again, and we'll see that imposing climb and imposing building in front of them.
So they hit this finishing ramp, 1 kilometer left on this circuit, the penultimate tour of this final stage, and now we have the Carroral squad back on the front because they've missed out on this one. They had a rider in that breakaway group up front, but they've got the news that he's been dropped, so now they are picking those riders up from the early break and now going back on the front. Rally cycling, Dillier just trying to dive bomb down the inside, and it's not too polite now, is it? It's all about trying to maintain position.
Yeah, and this is where we really will start to see the fireworks, Dillier. It's funny, isn't it? The World Tour teams seem to think they're entitled to dive bomb up the outside and take a few liberties that you otherwise wouldn't take.
Well, Kyle Murphy has finally cried enough. He's been out front for the entire stage pretty much, and he's attacked and attacked again, and he's refused to resist, but unfortunately now he has to succumb to the inevitable because Halalai, just with those fresh legs and that great ability and that nice piece of timing, races into this ascent, still hanging on to a 35-second advantage behind them. Well, the riders from that breakaway not yet mopped up, and I was on my mind that they had been dragged back, but United Healthcare and Molina as well, Sota as well for the Carroral squad, still continuing to push on to try and close this one down to Halalai of the Amore Vita squad.
Not quite the remnants of that break brought back, but it was falling apart, and you just sense that the peloton now have got the legs to do the damage and are going to bring this one back together for the last time up this climb, and it really will be a rip-roaring finale to the 2017 Tour of Utah.
I think that was Acevedo there with the lone rider from Carroral. We saw the Carroral riders gravitating towards the front, and that's why I was of a mind that they'd already closed down this group, but clearly they feel that their best chances lie in the riders in the bunch behind. Kyle Murphy hasn't given up on this one, has he? He's still chasing behind. He's still second on the road, and he's still within touching distance of the man who's going to take the bell and get the cheers of the crowds, because Reddy Halilai of the Amora Vita squad will take that bell. Will he take the over with these take the stage honours? Kyle Murphy second in line.
So just 8 seconds back to Kyle Murphy. Further 15, 16 seconds back to these chasers.
More Amora Vita riders on the attack. Looked like Amora Vita rider was on the attack out of the peloton, trying to jump across the gap. And look at the way they blew the touch paper has been lit, and the Israel Cycling Academy just trying to launch out of the peloton. Elevate KHS as well have seen James Pickley come to grief, and now want to try and do something about that and come up with a decent result.
Rally Pro Cycling didn't react there. They didn't jump onto the attackers straight away. They just upped the pace ever so slightly to try and bring it back, but good riding there by them.
Reddy Halilai of Albania. Superb effort on that stage 5. Can he put that behind him? 27 years of age now. National Road Race champion a couple of years ago. Stage win in the Tour of Eritrea this year, but that would match that or even perhaps eclipse it. Second in this year's National Road Race Championships. In flying form, 30 seconds of a lead to the peloton behind. Can it be as much as that? Senni has now joined with Kyle Murphy. Can they get together on the descent? Well, they have a way to go before they even get to the descent. 10 kilometers remaining on the final stage of the Tour of Utah as Manuel Senni tries to get back into position to contest for the stage victory. He's continued to resist as he's been unequal to the various attacks or unwilling to go with them, but now he finds himself, what, no more than 5 seconds behind the leader on this stage as Halilai of Amora Vita continues to dangle out front of the breakaway companions that he was with. Kyle Murphy here for the Silence squad, and Senni, and they look like they're going to be caught by the other two riders behind, and the bunch not too much further. Yeah, you can just see the bunch there in the background, ominous coming around. This almost looks like a mountain pass, doesn't it? It's not quite that high, but lovely countryside here, just in the hills above the town centre. So I think this one all set for the finale we've been expecting all evening. Yeah, rally cycling are back on the front and in control, such as it is. The jerseys of Caja Rural, the green jerseys, just assembling behind them. Halilai starting to feel it a bit, perhaps. He's on that little plateau at the top of the hill. Yeah, and as we've been saying all afternoon, you know, the Rally Pro Cycling have done a great job to maintain this and keep it under control, but they don't have to win the stage. You know, they just have to make sure that Rob Britton crosses the line. It's safe and sound, so they could call someone else's bluff here. I do sense that they want to win the stage. They do want to get up there with Rob Britton in the stage overall. Yeah, I think they're heading towards the win in the competition overall in terms of general classification. Colin Joyce perhaps a man to sprint for them. We'll have a little look to see what can happen. The shouts are coming out for Gavin Mannion as well, as Mick Walsh will be cheering for the Irish Mafia in America. Couple of options, aren't there? You know, you've got Ty Magna, who would probably like a shot at this one. Logan Owen as well, riding for Axion. Travis McCabe, we've already discussed him, and Marco Canola as well. Yeah, for Nippo Vini Fantini, so lots of teams with an opportunity, and so many teams looking to get something out of this race, having watched other squads taking the glory throughout the week. Manuel Senni pushing on. Kyle Murphy, I think, is a bit of a beaten docket at the moment, but he's managing to hang on here. Will he be able to contribute? Still, the ticker isn't really changing. Well, they're showing just 25 seconds back to 20, just as I say it. So Halilai, the the descent can't come quick enough. We had that little sort of a plateau, a little bit downhill, then it rises again, and he really doesn't hit the descent now until he gets around the next couple of corners, and the bunch really are not a long way behind.
No, I'm not entirely sure that's 20 seconds from front to back of this race, and the advantage for Rob Britton is 26 seconds from Gavin Mannion in second place. Don't forget 10 seconds time bonus on the line for the winner of the stage.
Yeah, they need to be careful of any little gaps that occur in that final kilometre, and I think that's why the rally cycling team are trying to keep as many riders involved and not too concerned really about other riders taking those bonuses on the line if they possibly can. Kyle Murphy continues to push on. Senni's going to attack him though, because he senses that he hasn't quite got the legs. Senni wants to just finish this one off. He's done a lot of the chasing to get on terms with Halalai. Just takes a little breather behind Kyle Murphy, and Kyle Murphy, well, there's nothing he can do about that. We've all been there.
No, but he's still trying to get across there. He hasn't sat up, he hasn't given up. He's been out there all day, and then he was the rider to attack. So a great ride to make it across there, as we see Halalai there just being caught by the BMC rider. But I think as Senni gets on terms, you can see the bunch in the background, and 10 seconds is the gap that they're registering now as Senni tries to go straight past Halalai.
Oh, and Halalai just finds that gear is just a little bit bigger than he'd like it at the moment. Kyle Murphy will move across and hand it over to the sprinters in the peloton. 10 seconds they're showing. Can't be much more than that, and Halalai is absolutely crucifying himself to get just onto the
yeah,
it's just a couple of
that's just
bike
horrible.
lengths.
It's you know, it's 2 bike lengths to get across there, and he's just gritting his teeth trying desperately to get on terms with Senni there.
And you sort of think, well, why doesn't he just ride up onto the wheel? Well, he's absolutely
he would
flat
if he
shot.
could.
Yeah, really, yeah. That little bit of a gradient, of course, is not making it easy for him. It's not making it easy for Senni and Halalai to hang on clear of the bunch. And is the bunch going fast enough to prevent some counter-attacks here?
Yeah, at the moment I think it is. It was interesting. Senni, drove on there, got up to Halalai, gapped him, and then swung across and expected him to come through, and he did. Halalai probably, if it was any other team, would have just said, "Hey mate, you've just put me in trouble. You can sit there for a minute." But he just went through, and you can see just how hard he's having to try here to stay on the wheel of the World Tour rider. But the bunch, 15 seconds now in the background.
Well, they're practically out on their feet. They've gone 15 rounds in a heavyweight contest, and they're just lightweight climbers, aren't they? But Manuel Senni and Reddy Halalai are still full of fight. He's looking for another turn. Where is it going to come from? The Cahra squad want to launch up that finishing climb. Haven't come with established bunch sprinters, but this different climb, well, that suggests that they might well have a rider to get involved. Just sitting at the back of their train, there's Chris Butler, could well be the man to do a job for them today.
Yeah, Cahra, not a team renowned for having sprinters. They're a Spanish-based team, always been a climbing-based team, and done very well over the years in the Vuelta a España, and I'm sure they're getting ready for that in the next weekend. It starts, doesn't it? It comes around quicker every year, but you can see now the 2 leaders pushing on. Senni there from BMC in the front in the red and black, and Halalai from Elevate Pro Cycling. No, sorry, not Elevate Pro Cycling. I've got that wrong, isn't it? Halalai
from Amora Vita.
From Amora Vita, yep, just in the black and blue. Very similar kits, aren't they?
Kyle Murphy's still out there. He's hanging on, and grimly he's going to be mopped up by the peloton. But when he was dropped by Manuel Senni that time, he didn't just give up. His attitude is really immense.
It's been a great ride by him. He's been plugging on, and even now you would see, most guys that are at this stage, they would look around and see the bunch breathing down their neck. They would know that they've got 5k to go. They'd swing across and wave the white flag and roll in a couple of minutes down. He's still pushing on. It's a great ride by the young man.
He'll probably try and lead out the gallop. You wouldn't know. Well, we'll see. Probably a little less likely to happen. Let's not be flippant, because this is serious business. We're inside the final 5 kilometers of racing on this 11th and final lap of the final stage of the Tour of Utah, with Manuel Senni crouched over the bars. They get some relief from the pain as the gradient prevents them from turning those pedals. So now they'll try and just slipstream onto the tail of these 2 riders out front. It's no more than 10 seconds, I believe, probably a little bit less than that. Cahra to the fore.
Yeah, and pretty much 4 kilometers of downhill now. A little bit of false flat, but 4 kilometers downhill until that right-hand turn as they go under the kilometer to go banner and head up to the city building once again.
4 riders for Cahra in line astern as they make the junction with the 2 out front. Senni lays it all down as he comes through the corner and puts a bit of distance between himself and Halilai, who's mopped up by the front of the peloton. So Senni looks around and sees that it's just a narrow amount of daylight. Will he reach the foot of this climb, as a couple of riders have just launched off the front of the peloton, and Halilai has missed that one. So too indeed have the bunch as Rally Cycling trying to get organised for Rob Britton, and this is the late ambush attempt as Halilai is just trying to get onto the tail of those two riders from Canola. So they've not decided to trust their sprinting ability and are just going to try and ambush this one. Senni still sitting clear, the Italian, 25 years of age, with the American registered Swiss BMC squad. And two riders from the Canola team who've come out here to race. They've been aggressive all day, trying to get in the breakaway. When they're not in it, they're definitely chasing it straight past, and Senni's not quite able to get into the slipstream. Halilai will close that one down. Is it Halilai? I think perhaps it is, but I won't commit to that for just yet. Two riders from the Canola team trading blows at the front. Amoravita and BMC, the other squads, 10 seconds advantage. They're going to make the right turn and head to the foot of the hill very, very shortly, and the peloton are massing behind them. And it's not a huge group, but it is it's a group that is committed to the chase, as Rally Cycling on the front at the moment.
Yeah, and they're trying very hard to push on these four riders, but you can see the bunch massing behind them. Once they take that right turn, they're going to slow up an awful lot. Canola, this is the game plan now, but one rider trying to lead out just the other one, and that's not really going to come off for them. They've got the charging bunch just behind them. BMC, three riders on the front there.
Well, it's Aaron Borough for the Canola squad that's absolutely emptying himself to at least launch his rider into perfect position coming into the finish line. The BMC squad are going to get the front of the peloton. Everybody wants to own this one into this right-hander.
Watch this right-hand turn. The riders are going to take it full chat. We could have some action there as Bardiani CSF come up the outside. Sylvain Dillier, for me, is an outside chance for the stage on this one for BMC.
And Bookwalter sitting in second in line of the BMC team, as Bardiani are going to take it up and into this right-hander. Holoesco Citadel, what a great week they've had with their two-stage victories for John Murphy and Ty Magner. This one could be one for Murphy. Israel Cycling Academy it is here in the black with the green helmets up on the right-hand side of the road, left-hand side of picture as you look at it now, and it's all about timing into this corner.
Yeah, they know how important this last turn is. You've got to have your riders round it in the first probably 15 riders, or else everybody's going to park up on this climb. Here we go.
Nippo Vini Fantini it is that won the early bragging rights in this sprint. Travis McCabe is lined up in third place, and is that cramp? I think it is. He's in pain and just pulls off the front. Huge effort to get into position and present his sprinter. I believe that Marco Canola is nicely placed. Riders have done their work. They're off the back, but we're going to focus on what's happening up front. McCabe's going for the long one. Leader of the sprints competition. He's inside this final kilometre, and riders are trying to pick them out as we've got Colin Joyce, I think it is, from the Rally Cycling team, is trying to put himself into perfect position. United Healthcare have a number of riders, and well, it wasn't for Travis McCabe. They put another rider on the front to lead it out.
Yeah, and you can see the damage that's been done down the back, but look at Rob Britton there in about 8th place in the leader's yellow jersey, sitting very comfortably. Even some of his teammates left after all the work they've done all day.
So Travis McCabe sitting in 3rd place and handily positioned, isn't he? And I think Nielsen Paulus has also put himself into position to try and maybe grab some seconds. He's sitting in 4th in that lighter blue jersey. The Nippo Vini Fantini team sitting in 2nd position. Here comes a launch from Canola through the right-hander. They'll go into the finishing straight, and Canola to try and ambush the rest has got a little bit of daylight, and is this Canola coming up behind to try and break his heart as the rider from, and it's Benito for Canola. He's got Marco Canola waiting to launch, goes on the left-hand side of the road and surprises them. Marco Canola is going to give Nippo Vini Fantini the win that they came to get. They've gone chasing all day, and look at the daylight he's putting between the rest of them as Nippo Vini Fantini into the closing meters of the final stage of this Tour of Utah. And it's Marco Canola that's going to get the hands in the air. All too easy at the death as BMC just get up to take second and United Healthcare in third. But the hands up from Rob Britton. He takes the overall victory. He wins the Larry H. Miller Tour of Utah for 2017, and he can breathe a sigh of relief. He knows it's been a job well done as the rally cycling team have taken the win, but it's Marco Canola that gets up to take the final stage.
So Marco Canola, one of the riders we referenced, there's probably a stage winner, takes the stage out, and I think it was Patrick Muller from BMC that ran in second, and there's your overall winner of the 2017 Larry H. Miller Tour of Utah, Rob Britton for rally cycling.
Well, he accepts the congratulations of his teammates, and no doubt that will be a feeling that is mutual. Rob Britton, well, he's got that wonderful sense of relief after a massive effort because it has been worth it. Marco Canola looks like he's ready for another 10 laps, doesn't he? Canola, the Nippo Vini Fantini, well, they put it all out there. It showed it to be worthwhile, didn't it? It was Miguel Angel Benito of the Canola looking to his right and then suddenly realized Canola was going on his left-hand side, and he bows his head as if to say, oops. I don't think he quite had the legs to match that attack from and that final sprint from Marco Canola.
No, and Canola took a risk there going around the left-hand side of him because the Canola rider looked like he looked over his right shoulder, and you have a tendency just to flick left a little bit. There wasn't a big gap there to start with, but managed to get through, and then just coming around this final bend, I'm not quite sure if he had it or not, and then yeah, Canola from Nippo Vini Fantini over the line, and then BMC second, and it looked like United Healthcare in third.
Well, look at the sense of relief and the joy for the 32-year-old from Regina, Saskatchewan in Canada. Rob Britton, by some considerable margin, the biggest victory in his career. Winner of the Stage 3 time trial to Big Cottonwood Canyon. When he saw that this year's Tour of Utah had added a time trial for the first time in 6 years, he said, this is the race for me. Won the Tour of the Gila back in 2015, fifth on GC in this race 12 months ago. Second on a stage of Tour of California in 2017 among his Palmares, but victory in the Tour of Utah. I think it's career-defining stuff for Rob Britton. And his entire team gathered around him, and they can celebrate a job well done.
Yep, and they did a lot of riding on the front of the bunch this week, especially today, to just maintain that gap to the leaders. Didn't get the final stage win, but nevertheless a very, very big win for one of the domestic-based United States teams, taking on, you know, a very good BMC team and a couple of very good professional continental teams.
Marco Canola, what about that for a finishing sprint? Well, he's been waiting to launch that one all week. He hasn't managed to just time it to perfection. 7th on stage 1, 8th place on stage 4, the two big sprinting opportunities, but that finishing hill really suiting his talents. Nippo Vini Fantini squad can emerge from this race at the level of satisfaction. 28-year-old Canola in with the team. Well, he just joined, of course, this year. First of a 2-year deal, ex-United Healthcare rider.
Yeah, and Rob Britton there just taking the congratulations from Jaramillo from United Healthcare. It's interesting when you know the domestic teams all ride a big race like this, and they have other teams coming in. They're all very supportive of each other at the end of the day, and show their appreciation there.
Travis McCabe will congratulate Rob Britton on his great success. Brent Bookwalter, of course, got up for 2nd place on the stage. Super effort from Gavin Mannion to get up for 3rd, and Patrick Muller in 4th. Wait for full confirmation of that, but that's we understand things have transpired at the end of a hugely entertaining final stage. Last couple of days were really good, and I think they put together an excellent route for us this year.
Yeah, and again, you know, we're seeing lately stage races with much shorter, punchier stages. This one just 73.2 miles or 118 kilometers, and the racing was absolutely fantastic. So just goes to show you don't need 200k stages. Some building that, isn't it?
Very impressive.
for a regional, state-sized government building.
It was constructed in the same year as the Titanic, but it's lasted a little bit longer. So it took 4 years to build. And,
the Titanic or that?
Well, the Titanic probably did take getting on for 4 years to build. Good question. Right in if you know. My brother would know, actually. But yeah, no, that one took 4 years to build. 1912, I believe, it was constituted. So we wait for the final podium presentations. We wait for final confirmation of the finishing order at the conclusion of what's been a hugely entertaining week of racing. It began with that victory for Time Magner into Logan, finishing circuits and those climbs, testing the riders, but it was a group sprint on day one, and the Hollow West Coast Citadel, powered by Hincapie's squad, coming out with a stage victory. Already a good week for them. It was even to improve a little bit later in the week, but stage two up to Snow Basin Resort, the first summit finish of the week, going the way of Brent Bookwalter of Team BMC. At that moment, it looks as if the World Tour squad had the opportunity to really go for overall honours. But stage three, well, that shook things up a little bit, didn't it? The time trial, just 9 kilometres in length, but it was all uphill, and it served to radically alter general classification, with Rob Britton of Team Rally Cycling moving into a yellow jersey that he was to keep for the remainder of the week. Stage 4, South Jordan City, was the preserve of John Murphy of the Hollow West Coast Citadel Racing Team. He took over sprinting duties. He was leading out for Time Magner, but ended up going to sprint for his own ends, and it worked out well for him. Great victory for Travis McCabe on Bountiful, and Ciccone the stage winner yesterday, but it's Canola that takes the stage victory today, and the overall win goes to Rob Britton. So they're still working away with the abacus and just totting up the final scores. Of course, bonus seconds to be awarded. I'm not sure there's going to be any great revolution on general classification. Gavin Mannion's acquisition of bonus seconds in the finishing sprint will have taken him just a little bit closer to Rob Britton in the overall classification, but with a distance of 26 seconds between them going into today's stage, and Rob Britton within touching distance of Mannion at the finish line. No question but that Britton has taken the overall victory. And Nielsen Paulus not quite, I don't believe, able to manage to get on terms with Tvetsov, who was sitting in third place on general classification going into this stage. Just a few seconds between himself and Nielsen Paulus. Paulus, though, will certainly be confirmed as the winner of the Young Riders jersey, and he's marked himself out as a considerable talent for the future of US racing. The man from Sacramento in California has certainly lit up the stages this week with his very impressive performances. And Brent Bookwalter, of course, that second place on the line. And it won't have made a huge difference to the deficit between himself and Rob Britton, but rubber stamps his 5th place finish, stage victory during the week. Certainly wasn't a bad week for the BMC squad.